Hi, everyone. Quick question. Can we travel to Cuba? That's the question that I've been asked lately a lot. Americans cannot travel to Cuba as tourists. That doesn't mean that we can't go. We can travel to Cuba, but the government has established some ways to do it. They're clear on the one that we cannot, tourist. So as tourists, we cannot go. Okay. But there are also other ways that we can do it through visas, special visas. There's currently about 11 or 12 visas or permits, as they call them, that are ways that we Americans can use to go and visit Cuba. One of those that we regular Americans that don't have family in Cuba, that don't have business purposes in Cuba, that don't have religious reasons to go, is called Support the Cuban People. Under that Support the Cuban People permit, we can travel. And that is a form that you fill up and you apply for that permit, and basically you fill it up and you can travel with that permit. Actually, some airlines are even require that document to be filled up even before you can even check in. So to recap, that is possible. We can travel to Cuba, but under that circumstances, we can only travel as support of the Cuban people. What that means is that we are saying in that document to the government of the United States is that we're going to travel to Cuba, but while we are in Cuba, we are not going to, we are going to support all the Cuban people in their businesses. So that means that we're going to stay on hotels that are sponsored or run by the Cuban people. We are going to go to restaurants that are ran by Cuban people. And it's kind of weird when you use the term Cuban people, because we say, well, are they all Cuban people? What they're trying to say with this is that they want you to promote the local businesses. What is it that they don't want you to do? They do not want you to promote businesses that are ran by the Cuban government. There are plenty of luxury hotels in Cuba that are owned by the Cuban government. So those are the ones that you're saying in that document by saying, I'm going to go with this permission of supporting the Cuban people, is that I'm not going to use those hotels. I'm going to go to a small, maybe smaller hotel that is ran by Cubans, national Cubans. Nothing to do with the government. The same with restaurants and businesses of any sort. Okay, so that's the way that we can legally go to Cuba. Now there are other, obviously, requirements right now. Like everybody knows, if you're going to travel, you need a passport, and that passport has to be valid, and it should not expire 6 months beyond the date of your traveling. So I explained this. If you're traveling in May of 2023, your passport has to not expired until 6 months after May of 2023. I'm sorry, I said 2022. We're in 2023. Okay, so that's what it means. It has to have at least 6 months of valid beyond the day that you're going to travel. That's also another requirement, is the mandatory Cuban health insurance. And that is done through the airline ticket. And at the same time, you can also buy additional, it's not required to buy additional insurance, because when you buy the ticket, you're including in that ticket that health insurance. Okay, and your boarding pass is proof. So when you arrive to Cuba, Your boarding pass is the proof that you actually have health insurance. And if you have any extra additional that you want to buy, you're also going to bring with you that paperwork proving that you bought extra insurance. The other requirement is visa. Those visas need to be issued by the Cuban embassy. And there are plenty of companies that that's all they do. They process these visas. And by the way, I didn't mention this in the beginning, and it was a good idea to mention it before. But I do not recommend anybody to travel to Cuba, any American citizen to travel to Cuba by themselves, meaning with do it DIY kind of thing. I don't recommend it because there's a lot of legal terms and legalities that you got to go through. Can you do it? Yes, very difficult, because by doing it by yourself, you have to go through a lot of offices and permits and visas and applications and a lot of paperwork. It's better to use one of these companies that's all they do. They process, and I do that through my agency. If you want to travel to Cuba, I have connections with these agencies or these companies that's what they do, process travelers, American travelers to Cuba. And once we deal with them, everything is being taken care of. They take care of the whole thing from A to Z, and you have nothing to worry about, and you are free to travel whenever you choose. But it's through their company that they do all these permits. So visa. They also have what is being so popular lately is the QR codes. So you're gonna get a QR code usually 2 days before the traveling, and you're gonna show that at the arrival in Cuba. And like I said, obviously you need to have that permit that support the Cuban people. And as today that we're shooting this video, though there's no COVID-19 requirements, no vaccinations, no tests, nothing is. It's completely open as is today, and that can change anytime, like you said, So it's good to be updated with this information constantly. And that's what I do for my clients, keep them updated. So if you need any other information about traveling to Cuba, just contact us or in our email, or even comment on this video. See you next time. Bye.